Well, I've reached our destination for today. Today we're going to hike a section of the original Boone Trace located here in Levi Jackson Park in London, Kentucky. So if you guys are ready to go, let's head on up the trail. Well, here we are a little further down Boone's Trace. Now, some of y'all are probably wondering, what's Boone's Trace? Well, Boone's Trace is the original trail cut by Daniel Boone and his party of axemen in 1775 for the Transylvania Company. The Transylvania Company had negotiated with the Cherokees at Sycamore Shoal, and they thought that they owned a large portion of Kentucky, and they wanted to open it up to settlers. Now, as you can see, the trail's not too wide, and in many places it's very rough. So you could only really do this on foot or on horseback. You really couldn't get a wagon through here until they opened the Wilderness Road in the 1790s. Can you just imagine all the people who walked this trail? Well, we are still moving along Boone's Trace here. It's pretty neat to be walking in the footsteps of all those immigrants that came this way. Now, after Kentucky became a state in 1792, the state decided that they wanted a better path into Kentucky than just Boone's Trace. So they had the Wilderness Road built. Now, the Wilderness Road in some places followed Boone's Trace, but in many places it went away from Boone's Trace. The Wilderness Road was wider and flatter and easier to use, and that way wagons could come in. Now, the section of Boone's Trace that we are on right now was bypassed by the Wilderness Road, but the neat thing about here at Levi Jackson State Park is they also have a section of the Wilderness Road not far from Boone's Trace here. It's the only park that I know of that has original pieces of Boone's Trace and the Wilderness Road still surviving. This is a very pretty trail, as you can see. And when you get far enough out, you can almost hear the wagons and the horses and the people walking this way. So, of the thousands of immigrants who came across Boone's Trace here, one party was known as the McNitt Party. They formed in Virginia in the fall of 1786, and they began their trek into Kentucky. Now, by early October, they were in this general area, walking on the path that you see in front of us now. They were pretty happy to be in Kentucky, and they figured they were this far in and they were probably pretty safe. Well, they were wrong. So, let's follow the trace and find out the rest of their story. Now, the part of the Boone Trace that we're hiking right now in Levi Jackson is known as the south section of Boone's Trace. The north section is on the other side of the park, and the trail kind of comes out of here and follows the park road up to the north section. So if you come to do this, the north section is right as you come into the park, but it's very short. Come down by the pool area and pick up the trailhead down there, so you can walk the longer. This is about 1.5 miles, the south section is, and I'd say the upper section is probably 1/4 mile. All right, well, let's keep walking and have a look around. Well, here is one last look at the south end of the Boone Trace Trail here in Levi Jackson. We're about to the end of the trail here on this part, so I'm going to meet you guys up on the north side. So I'll see you guys up there in just a few minutes. All right, here we are along the north end of the Boone's Trace in Levi Jackson Park. Now, we were discussing the McNitt Party. Like I said, in September of 1786, the McNitt Party left Virginia. There were 24 individuals in the party, and 3 of the family names were Barnes, Ford, and McNitt. There were probably other family names, but I have not been able to find any of those. They were in this area, and they were making their way down to the Little Laurel River, where they would camp for the night. They were feeling pretty good. They were almost to their destination, and they thought that they were safe. Well, they were wrong. Let's walk on down and see their last campsite. And here we are at the last camp of the McNitt Party. Now, they made camp here on October 3rd, 1786. And what happened next depends on which version of events you believe. Either way, the outcome is the same. But the first version is that they were so happy to be in Kentucky and they felt safe, so they didn't post a guard, and they had a party that night, drinking and dancing. The other version is they did post a guard, they cooked dinner and basically went to bed. Well, sometime during the night, a party of either Shawnee or Cherokee attacked the camp. If there was a guard, he was quickly overcome, and they were in the camp, and 21 people were massacred here. Now, 3 people did manage to escape. One was a man who made his way north along Boone's Trace and made his way to Crab Orchard, Kentucky, and brought back a rescue party the next day. The other survivor, depending on which account, was either a woman or a young boy, and they escaped into the woods and hid in the underbrush and were not found. The third survivor was a pregnant young woman who escaped the camp and made her way up the hill there, and we're going to go up there and see where she hid and tell her story. Somehow, during all the confusion of the massacre going on down at the McNitt camp, as you can see at the bottom of the hill there, a young woman made her way through the woods, desperately looking for a place to hide to escape death, basically. And she made her way up this hill, and on top of this hill, we'll see where she hid. After she made her way up that hill, the young woman found a large hollow tree that used to stand right here. She got herself up inside the hollow tree, and sometime during that night, she gave birth to a baby girl. Now, a lot of people would think that's probably not true. That's just a story that's made up, but I have seen 3 contemporary accounts that say that the young woman did have a baby up here in this tree, and both the baby and the young woman survived. The next day, she would make her way back down to the camp and be found by the rescue party. Now, the next day, when the gentleman who escaped brought back the rescue party, when they entered the camp, they found 21 scalped and mutilated bodies. The possessions that the warriors couldn't carry away with them, they had thrown all over the ground, and they also found the 3 survivors, including the young woman with her newborn baby. Now, not knowing if the Cherokee or Shawnee were still in the area, the rescue party quickly buried the bodies in 2 pits. And as you can see, there's rocks outlining the pits here. The survivors were taken back to Crab Orchard, and the personal possessions that could be rounded up were sold at auction for the benefit of the survivors. Now, none of the names of the survivors have ever been written down anywhere that I can find, so they just disappeared into the annals of history. The rock wall you see around the cemetery was built in the 30s by the CCC, including the rock sign right here that says McNitt's defeat, October 3rd, 1786, Kentucky's worst Indian massacre. Hard to believe there's 21 people buried in that little area. Also, there's a history marker right here. And if you come here, you'll have to park down the road because there's really no parking. I guess there's a little pull-off right here. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed today's adventure. If you did, be sure to give us a like and a share. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for coming along today, and we'll see y'all next time.